Hello and welcome.
I'm Victoria.
I'm Serena, and together we're Femme Noir.
This show is all about women, specifically in film.
We are going to review and analyze movies that are written by, directed by, or starring women, and we cannot wait for you to join us. Tune in and listen wherever you listen to podcasts, or join us on YouTube.
Today, we are going to be talking about the 2009 or 2008?
2009.
2009, thank you. 2009 film, Jennifer's Body, written by
Thank
Diablo
you, disembodied voice.
Mystery voice. We don't know who that we don't know who that was. Jennifer's Body, written by Diablo Cody, or Brooke Lucet, I guess is her actual name, and directed by Karen Kusama. It follows a newly possessed cheerleader, played by Megan Fox, who turns into a killer who specializes in offing her male classmates. Ooh, and then today is a special episode because we have a special guest.
Yay! Round of applause, round of applause, round of applause.
Jen, the Jennifer's Body specialist. The expert. We brought in an expert for this episode.
Thanks for having me. I think it would also be really funny. Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm so excited that you're in this podcast with us because I think this is the first time I've actually spoken to you
Same.
with actual not on
because we follow each other on TikTok and we comment and say cute stuff,
not on social media or something.
Met Serena
before, I've never actually met her.
I know.
Oh my god.
Online besties.
I know. This is kind of amazing. I was like, oh
just
my god.
Put in my banner Jennifer's Body expert and Vic and Serena's online bestie.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to start off just with first impressions. I think, me and Jen were maybe Serena should go first because you just saw this movie for the first time.
I did.
Recently.
I just watched it for the first time. Yeah, literally, I want to say last week at in the middle of the week, Tuesday, Wednesday. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I had so much fun. I'm kind of mad that I didn't watch it earlier, but I think I'm also glad that I've watched it now because I feel like I wouldn't have appreciated it as much. When it came, how fucking old was I when it came out? I had 12? No idea Megan Fox was on the radar except for Transformers, and then literally the last time that she was on my radar was when I watched the freaking live action
Ninja
Turtles. And I literally was like, why does she look so familiar? It's almost like she's Megan Fox or something. And then my dad was like, that's literally Megan Fox. And I was like, oh, that would explain it. I haven't seen her since Transformers. What happened to her? And apparently she didn't drop off. I just had no idea where she was. Wow.
So what did you know about it before?
I didn't actually know anything about it. The only things that I'd seen about Jennifer's Body was that it's definitely one of those movies that was made without men in mind, so it didn't do well when it came out, and that people are reclaiming it now, or I guess more recently, on TikTok and stuff I've seen about it. And then I think the only other thing I knew was that it was queer, and that was it. I was like, they kiss, right? And I was like, bye, yes, let's go. And that was it. That was all I knew. I was like, yeah, because Megan's bi. And I was like, yeah, that's super cool. Yeah. I didn't know until after, because I looked it up. I think I was reading an article after because I was like, whoa, that was so cool. I wonder what other things about the movie I can find out. So I went down a rabbit hole. And I learned that the film came out literally right after she came out publicly in Hollywood, I guess, as bi, and so she has that line in the movie where she goes I go both ways, and then
I love that.
And I was
line.
I love it. I fucking love it.
I love that line. Oh.
I think the first time I watched it, I think it was with Jen. I think didn't we watch it together? Yeah, you were like, you have to watch it.
A movie night, and I was like, we have to watch Jennifer's Body because the first time I saw this movie, it came out when I was in middle school, so I probably was 12 when it came out, but it was on TV years later. So the first time I saw it was in high school, and I was like, wait, why did everyone say they hated this? Like, because it was still kind of like everyone, I remember all the boys in my class were like, they really wanted to see the movie because Megan Fox is super hot. And they're like, oh, it was so bad. And I was like, oh, well, I didn't like horror movies, so I didn't care. But then I was like, why do I like this? This was before I knew I was gay. And I was like, there's something about this movie. But I kept it to myself because I'm like, I don't want to say I like a movie that everyone hated. Like,
it's so good though.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But yeah, we watched it in a movie night, me and Vic.
Prior to seeing the movie, I thought I was scared. Like, I remember seeing the previews when I was young, and it looked like a horror movie. We briefly, before this started, me and Jen talked about, like, there's a discourse about the way that it was marketed and, like, the stuff that was in the trailer and, like, the impressions people had before going to see the movie. And the ways that sort of maybe was detrimental to the reception of the movie because people were thinking it was going to be something sexy or this or that, but it wasn't. It was a horror movie, this and that. But when I was a kid, I knew it was a horror movie and I was scared. Yeah, first of all, yeah, it was not. I mean, yeah, like the trailer made it seem like you would enjoy it if you were a straight guy, but it wasn't like. It didn't really appeal to that sort of interest very much.
Yeah, because I was watching it and I was like, I don't know what's hotter than Megan Fox devouring the souls of men. That's
that's
kind of damn great. Like, that's kind of great.
You're wild.
I was like, boy, I hope this doesn't awaken anything.
I hope I don't fall. And we talked about it a little bit too, me and Jen, the fact that it was rated R. Which is kind of
I was really mad because I was looking up some trivia before coming on, and I was just like, wait, it's rated R? And I was like, that's so wrong to me because I thought it was PG-13. And I thought because they had originally wrote a sex scene between Jennifer and Needy, and I was like, so why did they take out the fucking sex scene? Like, if it was already rated R, like, are you kidding me?
Wait, really?
It's homophobia? Yeah, like they had scripted a sex scene because it was just basically like they were teenagers, like they're angsty, they're horny, like, you know, and they
like we got
explore
some male sex scene.
I know, and I'm like, they probably kept that one and had to nix the girl on girl, and I was like, this is so
sad.
I was heartbroken.
Oh my god!
And it wasn't even PG-13; like they still had to be rated R, which I'm like, are you kidding?
I know their language was pretty. Okay, actually, their language was something in the film that I was so thrown off by.
It's so funny.
It's so funny. Like, at first I was like, what in the world are they even saying? And then I was like, cracking up. I was like, I cannot believe that they did this so well that they were like, no, we have to change up the language. Because, like, they did use, like, pretty, I want to say, derogatory terms, like, a lot. But, like, the way that they talked was so weird.
It was like if Hannah Montana said, like, slurs. Like, at some point, someone calls a character lesbian gay.
Yeah, she was like, you're not, like, lesbian gay. Yeah, I was like, what?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was one of their classmates. But I was like, that feels like it feels so derogatory, but it also feels like Disney Channel at the same time.
Yeah, it's like so weird.
So aside from like the language and stuff that was awkward, were there other things that you thought were like maybe awkward or off?
Awkward or off? I actually texted you immediately. I saw Chris Pratt for like one scene and I was like, what?
In the beginning?
He's in this movie?
And
then, what's his name? Adam Brody. I recognized him immediately and was like, oh my god, he's in this movie? And I was like, wait, is he gonna be like the villain? Because I'm so down for that. And then he kind of was, and I was like, wait, yes. Because basically, he essentially, I don't know what it is, but he plays these characters where they're like supposed to be like good guys, but they're actually like twisted evil, like so well. Because I know they had him in Promising Young Woman, and I was like, wait. Of course they had to have him in Promising Young Woman, because, like, this is kind of his thing, is, like, being the, like, nice guy, air quotes nice guy, turns actually was never nice kind of a dude, and I was like, oh my god, another movie where he's like that. I'm so glad.
Well, it's interesting about Promising Young Woman. Oh, wait, what? Sorry.
Oh, no, go for it.
because I was kind of feeling that, at least with the narrative, it felt kind of like that same sort of revenge story. Like, here we go again with the revenge. It's like, okay, she gets lured in by this band and the group. And this is it's probably the only thing I think is awkward, whatever. But also, it was 2000. Like, it wasn't.
Yeah, there's like a few things where it's like.
Yeah, a product of its time, whatever. That was already over a decade ago. But then, yeah, she gets lured in, whatever. They, like, it's that narrative, like, they're going to take advantage of her. But then they're like, oh, let's make it new and interesting. And then actually, she's going to kill them and stuff like that. It's always, like, about murder and it's about killing them and stuff like that. But I don't know if I'm too much of a fan of that. So that would be the only thing. But then at the time, I'm not sure how many movies were really doing that as well. So it could have been like, what did we say? Yeah. Oh, like Legally Blonde. Where like that one could have been like really amazing because you didn't really see like these pretty girls like have opportunities and you can do anything you want. Kind of like whatever the Barbie narrative and that kind of stuff wasn't really around for girls very much. But then in this one, like maybe it's the same sort of thing. But then that was just kind of off for me a little bit. I don't know if Jen has thoughts on that or.
I think
no, go ahead.
Oh. I think like the watching it, part of their kind of like toxic relationship threw me off a bit because I was kind of upset that they weren't like I guess friends, like the reasonings that they ended up butting heads was mainly centered around like the boyfriend and how he didn't like Megan Fox's character, where I completely blanked on her name. Jennifer. Wow. He like didn't like Jennifer, and then she was like, I don't know why you don't like Jennifer, just because like she's cool doesn't mean that I can't be friends with her. And I was like, I kind of wish that they could have been friends still. Or like it could have been salvaged or something.
Yeah.
Only for the fact that like women are often like, oh, I don't like her because she's weird. And I'm like, dang it would have been amazing if it was like hey, I got the demon out of you and you're back, or I got the demon out of you, you're still my best friend. I'm gonna get those guys back for like what they did to you, kind of a thing. Like even if she had to kill her at the end, like it would have been so cool to have seen that like relationship salvage. But I know that it's like also, well, maybe it's not, but I kind of interpreted it as like a severing of like a toxic relationship. So in that regard, I was like, wait, I really like this because it's really cool. But yeah, I was just sad that it had to be like two women. I was like, you could have made a toxic relationship with like a man severed.
True.
Because they were kind of like frenemies almost. Like when they were going out, like Needy is like, oh, I can't wear this because she's going to wear that. And it's like this very like, like 2000s depiction of girl friendships. Yeah. And I'm just like where they kind of like hate each other, but for some reason are super, super loyal to each other. But I liked that aspect because it made it spicy for me. Like
I know.
I want to mean bestie.
They could have been lovers. That would have made me happy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason we had like weird butting of heads is because I'm actually in love with you. I'd have been like, sign me up.
Yeah, I think that definitely contributed to like the tension they had. Like it's like they loved each other. Like they were into each other for sure. And then going off of what Vic was saying earlier, I wish that we saw on-screen justice for Jennifer. Like I wish that you got to see Needy like kill the band. Like it's implied and we know what happens, but I just like think it's important to see the on-screen. Like we saw all these other boys get murdered. Now for the right boys to get murdered. Like,
I know. Yeah. I was like, dang, they really put that in the credits. So sad. Well, but yeah, I think I was actually really glad at the end when it came to it, because I like got to the end and she killed her and then she was in jail and then she's like, oh yeah, and by the way, like, and then she like escapes and I was like, so she's just gonna like escape jail and then what? And I thought it was gonna end and I was like really sad. I was like, those dudes just like got famous still. Like they went through the whole thing of like trying to like kill the virgin so that they can perform the ritual, and then they did it wrong and they still benefited from it. Like, are you kidding me? I was about to be pissed and then I was like, I'm glad they died.
Earlier, I said, like, oh, it was a product of its time. That was a decade ago, whatever. But I just realized that Promising Young Woman came out last year and it was, like, the same thing. So I'm like, Maybe we actually haven't made any progress because
Maybe, yeah.
it's like the same thing.
Damn.
Well, I do want to say the one thing that Jennifer's Body did well is the building of the fantasy. This
Oh my
movie
God.
was so well, like you can tell, like that it really the universe of the movie starts and stops with the movie. You're like, that
Mhm.
is a little capsule universe right there, and you can
Mhm.
feel
Yeah.
like the rules of the universe and the way things work. Because yeah, Needy and Jennifer are like on polar opposites, and in other
Mhm.
movies it would be like, how does that work? Da da da. But you can tell that they love each other, and it's because they do such a good job of keeping those things like connecting those dots and keeping them
Yeah.
consistent throughout the movie. It just makes sense. I think that they did a really good job with that. They don't really have you questioning those sorts of things.
I
It
think
also,
part
like,
of why.
oh, you keep doing this.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that, like, it was, like, really easy to believe the whole, like, demon, cult slayer, like, magic part, too, because even though they don't ever really explicitly, like, tell you about it until, like, that, like, when she finds out, like, oh, she's a succubus and whatever, like, it's very easy to believe, like, all of the, like, lore that they put into the movie. Like, I had no problem believing any of it, even before I knew, like, really what was going on. Because, again, I went into the movie, I had no idea what the heck was happening. I was like, Jennifer's Body, like, I thought it was, like, a Carrie situation where she was, like,
Mhm.
killing dudes, and she was just, like, a murderer. So I had no idea that there was, like a demon succubus thing, and I was like, whoa, that's kind of awesome. And I was like, but I, like, immediately believed it. I had no problem believing it.
What I was going to say earlier is like just the setting, like they lived in a place called Devil's Kettle. There's this weird black hole waterfall lake. Like you just kind of like, I feel like that sets it up nicely. Like, okay, they're in a small town, but also there's something kind of sus happening here. There's some supernatural elements. And I wanted to talk about the soundtrack of this movie.
Oh yes,
because this soundtrack, like this is the music I still like that pop punk, like angsty teen. Oh my gosh, like wonderful. That to me built the world. Like, yeah, these are teenagers. Just angst. Oh my gosh.
She had like the Fall Out Boy posters on her wall.
I think there was a Good Charlotte poster there too. Like it was like all those bands.
Like she was like a punk rocker, and then they, like, but she was also the popular girl. And I just thought that even just those things in her character specifically made her just a little bit deeper than the typical like cheerleader role that like she would be typecast as. And I was like, whoa, I just love that she's like really into like punk rock music. She's like for starters into like meeting bands and stuff, because like I feel like in that time period that like wasn't a thing really, like, or like that girl was like like the emo one, like she wore dark makeup, or you know, like she was her own stereotype, and I just thought it was really cool.
Fun fact about Fall Out Boy and Good Charlotte, the filmmakers considered making the villain guy, I forget his name, the guy that like sacrifices her, they were considering casting like a real like rock star musician. Like they considered Pete Wentz from Fall Out Boy, and God. They considered Joel Madden from Good Charlotte to play that role. And I was like, when I read that trivia, I was like,
wait, what happened? Did they not want to do it?
They just, I guess, didn't want to do it. Like, I don't know if they didn't want to make it like really Pete Wentz or make him like a fictional character, you know? So I think they went with a fictional band. But I was like, I love that detail of like the soundtrack with the pop punk band posters too, because I think it's a really good juxtaposition of like this female centered movie about friendship and like the intensity of their love with like this dude music going on in the background with the like the teen angst. Like I think that's really cool.
True.
I think also it just I love this soundtrack. I could talk about it all day. Like the whole plot was they sacrificed her because they wanted to get rich and famous, and that's a whole thing about men exploiting women quite literally for their art and them getting famous off of it. Like I think it was a line in the movie. The guy was just like, you know how hard it is to make it? Like you have to get on a soundtrack or you just won't. It was so funny and it was so fucked up. But it's true. Like, yeah, how many indie alt boy bands are there? Like a ton.
He's like, do you know how hard it is to make it in like the indie boy band industry or something like that?
Yeah,
I was laughing so hard. Like that whole scene where they're like literally trying to sacrifice her was done so well, because it's like they still
it was serious?
Are obviously doing a bad thing, but it was so funny because it literally called out such a culture of like like men.
Yeah.
I thought it was brilliant. It was so brilliant. I absolutely love that. And yeah, it's super cool. Like their soundtrack too. I don't know why, but that song that they kept playing on like repeat, they're like, oh my god, I'm getting so sick of it. I was so sick of that song by the end of the movie. I was like, oh my god, stop playing the song. And I was like, they did such a good job of like making you as the audience member, because I think the first song, or the first time that song plays, right, is like
they're
people
like
singing along to it or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, or the candlelight vigil when they have the people singing along to it. I was like, what is this song? Oh my god, that's so cheesy. And then I was like, they just kept playing.
But what's so funny is that song became really popular after the movie. Like people like me who like really love this soundtrack were like, yeah, like please release it. Like I want to buy this song.
I know. I was like, I recognize this song.
Yeah. Oh. But they just don't make soundtracks like this anymore. Like no more pop punk soundtracks. Like the only other one that compares, I think, is the Twilight soundtrack.
Oh my god.
Okay, listen, I was actually gonna mention Twilight in regards to this movie, because I feel like they're like not necessarily like related to each other, but I think that they both have this kind of like following of people like reclaiming stuff that where it was like not seen as something for people like the mainstream audience to watch. So like women loved it, women were made fun of for loving it, and now it's like, okay, but like it's still kind of a bop though. And I feel like the way that people like interpret Twilight and like you know all the spoof videos that they make where they're like making these jokes about the movie and like they're theorizing and stuff like that, this movie feels like one of those really smart jokes about like like mythical like fantasy world like romance thing, but then they subvert all of the tropes because it's like funny, because it is funny. And I was like, but it's also like really fucking smart at the same time.
Wait, are you talking about Twilight?
No, the Jennifer's
Body.
Okay. Like the jokes that people make about Twilight, they're like, LOL. I don't know, like they're like, oh yeah, it's the most iconic like movie. Cinematography is like amazing, and they're like, if you look at this one scene and you break it down, and they like make up like fake terms or whatever to like make it sound really smart, but they're talking about like something really dumb in Twilight, like the scene where she like punches him and breaks her hand, and he goes, she punched my hand, breaking my face, or she broke her hand, punching my face. Like they'll like take that scene and they'll like analyze it like a filmmaker. And I was like, I feel like this movie is like a joke, like one of those types of jokes, but about like teenage high school movies that are just like so aggressively stereotypical. And they were like, you know what if we make one but we like make it funny? And it's like, so obviously they're all there, but like, oh, guess what, she may be the pretty popular one, but like she's secretly into like Fallout Boy. They're like, isn't that funny? It's like so funny, but it's like it's also genius.
The joke that exemplifies what you're trying to say the best is when they're in the pool and she like starts flying, like, and the boyfriend is like, she can fly, and Needy's like, she's just levitating, and she's like, how dare you undermine everything I do?
Yes, so it was funny. Like, so that's the vibe. Funny.
That's the vibe. I totally get what you're trying to say. Like, it's so,
I was like, oh my god,
oh, I love it.
That
the dialogue,
scene, the indie band scene, or like even when they're like murdering her and they're like they start singing the Jennifer song.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They start singing the song. They're like, wait, there's a song for this. And they start like as a band singing.
That's what made the movie, that scene kind of actually scary for me, because when guys murder women, it really be that casual.
It be like that. You're like, bro, like, what the fuck? Like they don't even think about it. They're like, just have to laugh. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, so it's like, it's a joke, but it's like not a joke, and it's brilliant. Like I loved how this movie just captured all of that. Oh my goodness. Chef's kiss. Chef's kiss.
I will say something watching this movie, I've seen it a lot, right? Like since in high school,
Mm-hmm.
but just rewatching it now, something I'm more like conscientious of is like every person of color in this movie, one, you can count them on one hand, and two, they were all like either like treated like shit or like eaten. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. Like there wasn't a single person of color in this movie that I was like, I like you. Like I think their classmate who is Asian, I was like, cool. Like you look like me. She was like homophobic and annoying. I was like, please, not annoying.
You're like, no.
like why can't I have a likable character that looks like me?
It's
like
true.
it's annoying. Like it's frustrating. Like the nurse in the beginning nearly like fucking beats up. I'm like, that was a little necessary.
I know.
Like,
I was
girl.
like, did you need to? She's just doing her job.
And like the movie gets a lot of like hype, I think, deservingly, of like, oh, it's like feminist. Like, you know, there's that line where Jennifer is like, PMS isn't real, needy. It's just a lie propagated by boy media. And like, you know, stuff like that, like girl power. But I think something that comes along with that kind of like white feminism is like men of color always kind of in the crossfires. Like, what was it? There was like an award show. I think it was like the Oscars or something. And there was only like one like female director being nominated for best director. And the like host was like, oh, and one woman. I'm like, I get it. But there were a lot of men of color in that director pool. I wish I knew what show. Do you know what show I'm talking about? Either of you? Do you remember that?
Well, I know what you're talking about. Like I remember the discourse, but I don't remember which one.
You're saying like they put so much emphasis on the woman instead of saying, oh, men of color made it. Is that what you're saying?
Like they had their own struggles too. Like there's an intersectionality of those things. Yeah. And I bring that because her first victim, she didn't lure in because he wanted to have sex with her or he objectified her. It was literally an exchange student from India who was lost, who did not like speak English that well, and just was like needed help. And I was like, that, like, she is a villain. Like, I know we all joke like, oh, good for her and we love her, and like I do, but like that to me, like watching it now, I'm like, oh, that's kind of, I don't know how I feel about that.
I know that kind of made me a little uncomfy. Along with her second villain, the like guy that was like, yeah, like we should go on a date or something, and like he like genuinely just wanted to go on, and like Needy was like, yeah, he's like a nice guy, you should go on a date, and then he literally is like, I'm uncomfortable, this is weird, and then she still like low-key kind of harasses him a bit, and I was like, he said he was like, uncomfortable, can you let him
like her
go?
reasoning was so like gross too. Like it was just like, oh, you think that guy's cool, Needy? I'm gonna get with him because you can't. Like it was that like emo boy,
really,
right?
Yeah. Twisted.
Yeah. So I'm just like, oh, like, but you know, it'd be like that. That was just something I wanted to bring up.
What were we saying?
I just wanted to bring that up because when I looked up like articles and things about this movie, people rarely brought up that, and I think it's important too. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I think that's why I hate stuff where they're like, oh, they get murder or they get revenge by murdering. I just think it's so uncomfortable because it's too close to it. Well, at least in that case, especially, it too closely mimics real life violence against those groups of people, and I think that I don't know. In some ways, it's hard to. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe it's just because of my own personal dispositions and my own life experiences that for a moment the fantasy is broken, and I'm like, whoa, that's kind of scary, actually.
Yeah.
But then. I don't know, because then I'm sure, there are people like that maybe don't feel the same. They're like, no, it's just a movie, like it's just a concept. But I don't know. I'm not a fan of that concept because of that. It is uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable, especially when it's that kind of like intersectional like issue, I guess. Was like, he literally is a foreign exchange student, doesn't speak very good English. He's walking, and then she's like, oh, does your like your host family like know you're alive or whatever? And so she like reasons like, okay, I can kill him anyway. And it felt very like, what's it, Karen-esque of like using your like white womaning to like take down a man of color. And I was like,
it was really uncomfy. I was like, whoa. I do not remember that. And the reason it was so uncomfortable is like, it had to be the exchange student for that whole like setup to work. Yeah. I think personally, like, cause it's like, who else would
Yeah.
someone not really, like, they cared about him, but they didn't really, you know what I mean? Like, if it was like a classmate that they had maybe grown up with, but since he was like an exchange student, it's just kind of like, oh, they won't really question it. Like, they just will assume he died in the fire. Like,
Yeah. I wanted to bring up a little bit about their roles and like how they were cast and stuff. I know I kind of brought it up a little bit before with like how they have a little bit more dimension and stuff, but I thought it was really interesting. I guess the setup of the movie with how like Needy is like the like not popular one because she's like the blonde smart one, right? And so that also is kind of like a subversion of regular like stereotypes of that time period because the blonde one would have been the pretty one, like the blonde one with the blue eyes, the very like virginal like baby face like look that she like has and was typecasted for a lot. They gave her like the opposite role, so she's like the like badass, like nerdy, really smart, like she's still blonde, she's still pretty, but like that's not all that she is like that kind of a character. And then they gave Megan Fox a character of like, yeah, she's like super popular, she's super pretty, and so they kind of did play off of like what she was typecast as, and then subverted it with the fact that like, and I want to say it has a lot to do with the plot of this whole idea of like being the virgin. And where they're like, she hasn't been a virgin since she was like 14, and like the whole reason that this movie happens is because these guys prey on her, and they're like, oh well, she's like that type of girl that like is super pretty but she would never give it up kind of a thing, so they like target her, and then she lies and tells them, yes, I'm a virgin, like please don't kill me, I'm a virgin. And they're like, oh but we need a virgin. And then the fact that she isn't a virgin is like low-key what actually saves her. Whereas if this was like a traditional horror movie, she would have been like the final girl kind of a thing. Like, and she would have died for it. But then it wouldn't have been Megan Fox's actual character. Like if they were like, oh yeah, she's had sex, she's like a slut or whatever, she would have been the first one to die.
Yeah.
And like a typical horror movie. So I thought it was really interesting that they would have the sexually active, promiscuous, like very very like comfortable with her body type character to actually end up being saved by the very thing that in most horror movies ends up being their demise. And then also like subverting that with her best friend who is also sexually active, and they make a point to show you that, who is generally seen as like the like, because you assume like, oh, she has a boyfriend or whatever, but because Megan Fox is the one that's like the quote unquote pretty one, you would assume that Needy's character is like the virginal one because she's the blonde baby face one. But she's not like that either. And so I thought it added a lot of depth to the way that they just like subverted these roles and then played on your like expectations to kind of build the world too. And I thought that it was kind of amazing. And I really, really enjoyed that about this film.
Have you seen Cabin in the Woods, Serena? Because they kind of joke about that premise of like, so like in the movie, it's like all these, you know, college students, they go to a cabin and they die one by one, like, and there's something afoot, but the order that they die in is exactly that. But the first person that has to die is the slut, and the last person that dies is the virgin. Like, and I don't know.
Yeah,
I think
like,
if you like
girl.
that idea and like those like horror tropes subverted, I would recommend Cabin in the Woods. I know that's not like my movie recommendation for this episode, but just what you were saying made me think of that movie.
Yeah, because like you have so many movies like Scream, you've got like slasher films and stuff where like the final girl is like the virginal character, and then like the sad thing is that she never actually like gives up her virginity or anything, but she becomes like darker or like marred because of her experience with like having been like hunted. And it's just like, and then at that point, like at the end, they almost always hint at the fact that she's like, oh well, I'm not the same person I was anymore, like I'm strong, so I'm also strong in my like body too, and it like has to do with that somehow. And it's like, that doesn't really make any sense, but like it's like a thing that's so ingrained and like very typical like horror movie like tropes and stereotypes. And it's just, it's weird to think about. Like horror is probably what I want to say it's one of the like easier ones to make. So there's generally like more horror movies like out there than there are, because people are always going to watch them. I remember learning about this in a class, and I can't remember which one it was, and it's bothering me. But essentially, like, they're always going to make horror movies, and they're always going to need horror movies because people are always going to watch them. And so horror movies end up taking up a lot of like the industry, I guess. There's like a lot of them out there, and they're also one of the cheaper ones to make because you don't always have to show everything on screen, and you can kind of like make things up with like audience expectation. So like when they tell you like as a filmmaker, like when you're going into film, they always like what's the line is always like, horror is the easiest, comedy is like the hardest. Everyone wants to make a comedy movie, but very few are actually going to be good at it, whereas very few people want to make horror movies, but everybody's good at it. Yeah. And it's like, I feel like that is something that's like, there's so many of them out there, and yet we still have the same tropes carried out again and again and again and again and again. And it kind of like just shows you really how ingrained we are in the male gaze as like an audience and an industry, the film industry itself, to have so many of these like movies where just so many women are brutalized. They're made the butt of the joke. It's like, what? That's ridiculous. Bothers me a lot.
I think, well, I was comparing it a lot to Promising Young Woman, but now talking about it as a horror movie and stuff, Promising Young Woman wasn't a horror movie. So I think that's almost an unfair comparison. Because you're right, honestly, a lot of their character was very rich and fleshed, and it's that same sort of perspective that I've got, or that feeling that I got from Birds of Prey, which is another rated R movie that doesn't feel like a rated R movie, but they just feel like people. And I'm sure when they were writing the script, they didn't know who was going to play who, and so it just worked out that both of these actors worked really well in the roles. But I feel like their personality would have showed up really nicely on paper because of how well that it was written, and how like their personalities came out in the dialogue and in the gestures and in their actions. And it wasn't so much they had to rely on camera work to build the world. It was like the foundation of the movie.
It was very much like, because they even like, they have such a solid like plot too.
It's new. It's like never, honestly,
so good.
In thinking of like recommendations, I couldn't think of anything because this is so unique to me. I'm like, nothing has the same vibe.
I'm still searching for that vibe.
I know.
It's the vibes, bro.
Oh, something I did want to bring up that wasn't directly related was Megan Fox is starring in another horror movie soon. It's called Till Death. Till death do us part. So maybe I'm hoping it has the vibes. I'm hopeful, but that's something I wanted to say because I'm excited for it.
We got to talk about that one then.
Yeah, for sure.
Megan Fox.
Because it's like,
yes,
Megan Fox did such a good job with the movie. Like everything makes sense, even if they have to like make it make sense. Like the succubus thing. Like it's like, I'm gonna be honest, I thought she was a vampire for the longest time. And then she was like, she's succubus, and I was like, oh yeah, because of the ritual. That makes sense. I was like, she's a vampire, obviously,
because like the teeth, right? Yeah.
Her mouth literally goes like, and I was like,
I love all the promos. She had the blood.
The best pictures ever when she's in like the white. So best pictures.
It was so cool,
iconic.
And then even down to like because I guess the one thing that confused me the most, that made sense when I kind of watched the movie as like a severing of like a toxic relationship kind of a deal, was her bond with Needy. In the fact that like they were physically connected in a way, where like, because they have that whole scene which is so interesting when Jennifer is like killing that one dude that she was the emo
guy?
The like emo kid that like writes poetry or something.
I think his name was Colin. Yeah, I think his name was Colin. Yeah.
She's like tearing into this guy, and she's like, "Aren't you hopeless or whatever?" Meanwhile, Needy's having sex with her boyfriend, who's
I guess
not really doing that great of a job, but he thinks he is, which is absolutely hysterical. Another one of those things where,
so
like,
funny.
that vibe, it's so funny. But then at the same time, she's, like, freaking out because she is literally feeling, like, Jennifer killing this man.
Yeah.
And then, like, they bring it back later on when she is, she's at the dance and she's, like, looking for Jennifer. And then Jennifer kisses Needy's boyfriend, like, outside. And then she's like, oh, he's in trouble. And she, like, it's like, oh my god. She, like, runs out there and they bring that back.
I need to point out, too, that it's, like, she knows it's Jennifer because she has kissed Jennifer. So when she's, like, feeling the kiss, she's like, oh, that's Jennifer.
She's like, excuse me?
She's
bestie
vibes. I'm like,
I love that.
Like,
it's a yes from me.
Because it was brought up like twice in the movie, that like weird connection thing that they have. And I want to say maybe at the beginning when they're like holding hands in the fire thing like strikes. Because I was like,
oh yeah,
like that
when
was
they're at the concert and they're like holding hands. Oh,
and then the fire literally strikes, and I was like, what the heck? Where did that go? Like, I thought it was maybe like the band or something, or like maybe because I still had no idea what Jennifer was. I was like, oh, is she like magic or something? And I was like,
oh my gosh,
what is this? But then I realized that it was like, oh no, they're like connected, they're like bonded, because when she kills Jennifer, the whole thing is she literally has to break off their like BFF necklace.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, they're like literally connected by this weird toxic friendship, and in order to like literally both be free from that, they have to like sever, literally severing the necklace, the string. And I was like, oh my god, brilliant.
In my
we have a
opinion,
visual to go with it.
The necklace breaking was the thing that killed Jennifer. Like the heart, like, because you know Needy stabs her in the heart, and Jennifer is like, oh, my tit, and she's like, no, your heart. And then the necklace breaks. I'm like, Needy was her heart. Like once that friendship was severed, that's what killed her.
Exactly. Needy was her heart. Needy was the only thing keeping her from doing like crazy stuff. And that was like something she said too earlier. She was like, I couldn't like do anything to you. Like I was starving, but like I couldn't bring myself to like hurt you, is something that she said. Because she almost kills Needy in the beginning, right? And then she literally is like, I couldn't bring myself to do it. And I was like, whoa. Got real meta right there. It's kind of crazy.
I think that kind of like not only calls into question the sorts of horror movie expectations, but also, I hope I haven't been too loud because I just remembered I have to be quiet. But
no, you're good.
So I don't spike the thing. But also, who is the protagonist and who's the antagonist? Because you could argue that Jennifer could be the protagonist, honestly, but then I would interpret Needy to be the protagonist. But then Jennifer could be the antagonist. But then the movie doesn't end when Jennifer dies; it ends when the other guy. So it's like, he could be the antagonist. So it's like there's not really those sorts of roles either. It's kind of just
and technically the movie starts off with Jennifer. She's sitting there in her bedroom, and it opens, and it has one of those opening scenes where you're like, she would be the main character. It's very interesting. Yeah.
So just in general, I was just thinking about that when you're talking about roles and the way that they like operate in the movie. They kind of, it's kind of just, it doesn't really conform to that either.
Yeah, because I mean, like, it's called Jennifer's Body, and it's interesting because, like, I guess theoretically, is Jennifer really alive for the majority of the movie? Because I'm still confused as to, like, the succubus in Jennifer. Is that, like, a completely separate demon, or is that still Jennifer?
Or they like, merged into a new personality.
Because she still has, like, Jennifer-esque qualities. Like, she's not really different. She's just...
She just needs to eat boys.
Like, brought out a little bit more of the evil, I guess. Which is super, super cool. Because I guess, like, if it never happened, they would have just been friends forever. And that would have been tragic.
Maybe they would have been
more than friends.
That would have been nice. Maybe. But if Jennifer wasn't taken by the succubus, would she have been as confident to, like, approach Needy with her feelings?
Don't say that. I want to leave.
They would have gone to college and realized it would have been one of those stories.
Yeah, they would have gone to the same college, and then it would have went down.
Dump the boyfriends. Who I also didn't like. I didn't like him.
Wait, Needy's boyfriend?
Yeah.
I liked him. He was baby.
It was pretty baby. Okay, wait, let's do FMF. Then let's start.
Yeah,
let's start doing
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, his name was Chip, right? That was Needy's boyfriend?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Chip.
Okay, so we're going to do Chip. We're going to do Adam Brody, Nikolai,
Yeah.
and then we'll do Colin. Kyle Gallner.
Colin's the emo one, right?
Yeah.
Yes, those are the first three guys. Well, there's a J.K. Simmons, but I don't want to do him.
Was he
So we're gonna
the
do the
football
other
player
ones.
guy?
He was the what?
Was he the football
Who
player
was that guy?
Jennifer kills? Watching them
he's-
kiss literally grossed me out.
he's a
He had
football
such a
player.
big face compared to her
Yeah.
face, and I was like,
This feels like
it didn't
not
feel like it should work.
the same species. Like it felt weird. Like it felt like he was a statue almost. Like I don't
Yeah,
know
I was
how
like,
to
she's
describe
not
it, but
kissing
yeah.
a person. That's like not a real man. It felt so like disproportional.
They're just like they
He
showed
was
that
so
kiss,
big.
then they showed the Needy Jennifer kiss, and you're like, yeah, this is normal.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. Her kissing that guy, I was like disgusted.
It was like an but I'm a cheerleader. Like when they're kissing, same vibes.
Okay, well, J.K. Simmons is the teacher, so I don't know who the
Oh,
football guy
Oh,
is, but
I forgot he was
I don't know who that is.
Oh
yeah.
my god.
Okay, so but we're gonna do Chip, Colin, and then Nikolai,
Nikolai.
the
The lead
band
singer murder guy.
Oh, Adam Brody.
Adam Brody.
Nikolai.
Okay, I think I would murder Nikolai. That's easy. I think I would have sex with Colin because he seems like he'd be respectful, better than Chip. But I'd still marry Chip because he's baby. I don't know. I loved him. He was cute.
Oh wait, we can't murder. We friend
We can't
zone.
murder. Oh, friend zone.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
I friend zone Nikolai, but it's okay because Needy kills him, so it's still Gucci.
Okay. Period.
You friend zoned him in order to help me be killed.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
You lure them in, and then that's how
Got
you
it,
get them.
got it. With your beautiful
Definitely.
friendship. I'd probably marry the emo one because yeah, he seemed really nice, like and chill and
Mhm.
respectful. I would screw Nikolai because I don't know. Adam Brody's cool. He's got some vibe about him that like not
bad
as
boy
Nikolai.
vibe.
That's kind of
Yeah.
like I'm down for it. Like I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then who was the other guy? Who am I friends zoning?
Chip.
Her boyfriend. Chip.
Oh yeah, no, I would friend. He would literally be a friend zoned dude in real life if he existed. I don't know why I didn't like him that much. I think maybe it was because he was so against her like friendship with. I don't know. I get really turned off when dudes are like, I don't like her, and I'm just like,
Oh yeah.
why? What do you have against my friend? I would have dropped him before I dropped her.
That's a
And you know what?
vibe.
That's valid. Yeah.
I like toxic men.
It's just like a thing. I don't know.
I also would fuck Nikolai. I'm sorry. This is just based
He's
off looks
cute.
alone.
I don't know what it is. He's got
Yeah.
a cool like aesthetic. It's
Yeah, out of those three, he's the best looking one, in my opinion. And then I'd probably marry Chip because he's baby.
I know. I'm the same.
And then I would friend zone Colin. He's probably a good friend. Okay, so then Bechdel test definitely passes, easy.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Passes like immediately because she's talking to the female doctor first, right?
Mhm. But was she named? Because don't they have to have names?
yes,
Oh yeah.
female doctor.
Female doctor one. That's Doctor Female Doctor.
Yeah.
Doctor
First name
female
last
doctor.
name, last name doctor.
It's Doctor Woman.
Yeah. And like one of the first scenes, they're like at the gym, like the school gym, and Needy is like talking to a classmate who was also a girl, who I
Oh
think
yeah,
had
she
a
was talking
name.
to the Asian one, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Where she
yeah.
goes
And
like,
they were talking about Jennifer,
you
like,
guys seem
you're
super
so
lesbian.
gay. Yeah. And I'm like why?
Unfortunately, that does count towards it.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I hate
And
it,
she's
but
like,
it
she's
counted.
my best friend.
But then that's another element that I wanted to talk about is like,
oh my God,
where do women of color get their lines, if at all, and then what are they? And so then that's really showing if like one of the only conversations that they have is like her saying that. Like, Jesus
there's
Christ.
her saying that, and then them arguing about the band and how beneficial they are to the community.
Yeah. Which is an injustice. Yeah.
I'm just like, cool.
Yeah. Because it's like, yeah, they can talk, but then it doesn't really feel like a win at all if they're not really making an effort outside of the whatever. Yeah. Okay, and then just movie ratings.
Oh, what's the scale again?
Just 10, best movie you've ever seen. 1, couldn't even finish it.
It's an 8 for me. It's not a perfect movie, but I love the movie. I love this movie a lot.
Yeah, I would probably also say like an 8, because it's one that I would watch again and again and again, and I would be like really interested in. I probably wouldn't recommend it to absolutely everyone, because I feel like some people wouldn't get it, and I don't want to hear people's opinions that don't get the movie. But yeah, it's not like a perfect movie either, so yeah, definitely gonna give it an 8.
I think I'm gonna be crazy. I'm gonna give it like an 8.5, you guys.
Whoa!
This is a first.
I know.
I love this movie.
Yeah, honestly, it's just really good. I do have like a couple problems with it, but that's being really nitpicky. I think for the most part, like surface level and first impression and like the first watch, I was so impressed and so like for the movies that were coming out back then. I mean, you watch Scott Pilgrim and then you watch this, and this was like so much better, honestly. Like it's a fantastic movie. Honestly, just those couple little things that I was like, narratives about murder and stuff like that. If that was different, it would be a perfect movie in my eyes. Everything about it is literally perfect. The characters are perfect. The story is perfect. I think that it does an amazing job visually. I think that it is quite scary, and they do a good job in that respect. It's really colorful, which I love. So it's a pretty damn good movie, and I would recommend it, and I would rewatch it like however many times.
I would only criticize this movie in front of the girls and gays if like there's like a dude watching for whatever reason. Like, no, it's a perfect movie. It was 10 out of 10. Like, like, you know, if
it's one of those movies you bring up in film class to piss off the film bros.
Exactly.
And like
like, no,
Tarantino, and you're like, Jennifer's Body and Twilight are the only 2 cinematic masterpieces that are not a part of the Barbie universe.
That's so true. That's so true. You're so right. I would back you up on that. I would back you up. Okay, so then recommendations.
So I wanted to recommend Happy Death Day as my recommendation.
Oh, I wanted to watch that.
It's
pretty good.
If you didn't know, it's I also made Vic watch this.
Yeah. Jen's got taste.
It's like Groundhog Day, but it's about, you know, a college girl who's kind of like similar to a Megan Fox character where she's like kind of popular, and it's a Groundhog Day. She has to figure out who murders her. And I think the reason the movie, I didn't know this until later, the movie vibed with me so much was because the movie was originally going to star Megan Fox, like back in like 2010, 2000, like around that time. But it came out in 2017, so, you know, they cast someone different. But it was just like, that was the closest vibe to Jennifer's Body that I've gotten, is that movie.
Because it was written around the same time as Jennifer's Body, right? I think you told me that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And then just for some reason, it didn't get made for a while, because when we watched it, Vic was like, when was this like made? And I was like, 2017, but the dialogue is very like Hannah Montana Bratz movie too. Like, you're kind of like, what?
It had early 2000s vibes.
Yeah. So definitely that one. A show that has kind of similar dark humor vibes is Santa Clarita Diet on Netflix.
I freaking love that show.
I think it has enough of the vibes. Like, Drew Barrymore is eating bad people, and it's like funny, but it's dark. Like, you see her murder, and you see like that kind of body horror. So
it's definitely got like the gore,
those vibes.
It's so funny.
I love that one.
Literally so funny.
I miss it so much. It got canceled because fuck Netflix, but
such a good show. I think I had one movie that was Colossal, because it kind of had like similar dark humor vibes. Yeah, and I mean it kind of deals with like a little bit of like a monster story in it too, so that's kind of fun. Also Anne Hathaway, so
Yes, we love her.
Okay, yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me. I had so much fun.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Our historic episode, our first guest. Wonderful.
I know. And I'm happy it was Jennifer's Body. Like, best movie ever.
I know. I was like, oh my god, yes, this is a great one. I know. And during Pride Month, the vibes.
Yes. Is it going to be released in June?
I have no idea.
It should, just because of Pride.
I know we should, because it also came out on Hulu recently too, right?
It did?
Like literally this month.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's how I watched it. Was because there was like a lot of hype about it being on Hulu. They're like, it's out on Hulu, and I was like, wait, I gotta watch it.
Well then, happy Pride.
Happy Pride.